Community Health Coalition. Just want to give you all a few house rules. Please take a moment to silence all your electronic devices and your phones. The Wi-Fi code, if you need it, is on the table, so you can follow the directions and get that there. And if you're on seeing us virtually, just please remember to mute yourself virtually. And for those internally, the restrooms are outside to the right, down the hall on the left. All right, so School Meals for All Town Hall. It's a collaboration of coalition leadership comprising of North Carolina Alliance for Health, the Center for Black Health Equity, Carolina Hunger Initiative, and ABC, A Better Chance, A Better Community. And we have over 80 coalition partners, to include Community Health Coalition and the Greensboro chapter of the Links Incorporated, and so many more. Are there any more community partners, either virtually or in person, that I need to acknowledge? Okay, great. So let's take a moment really quick before we get started. How many of us get up in the morning and can't function until we have something to eat, something to drink? Is that you? It's certainly me. I can't, don't talk to me until I've had something in my system, right? And what about if you're working all day long and you're doing your job and then suddenly you're hungry and you like, I have to stop and get something to eat. I can't function. I can't even think straight. Does that happen to you? I know it happens to me. Mm-hmm. So let's think about our students for a minute. Those who don't get a meal. And we want them to perform. We want them to be energetic. We want them to focus. We want them to be academic. We want them to have a happy attitude. How hard do you think a grade schooler or a middle schooler or a high schooler, how hard is that for them? I mean, we can't do it as adults, and we're expecting them to excel, but one out of 6 of our students go hungry, go without a meal. And this is not once a week, this is daily. So this is why we're here today. This is why we're here. So I thank you again for being here. And on that note, I am going to bring up our moderator, but I have to tell you a little bit about her. She is not a stranger to me or to the Triad, because she has been around for a good while. So today's moderator, Tracy McCain, Barbie, was on the air of WFMY in Greensboro for nearly 17 years. This past June, she made the important decision to sign off from the Good Morning Show to spend more time with her family. McCain, a North Carolina native, started her career in journalism at WSHM in Springfield, Massachusetts. And I had speech therapy, and that word gets me every time. Before moving on to nearby WFSB in Hartford, Connecticut. She returned to North Carolina in 2006 to be closer to her parents in Guilford County. Tracy is an Emmy Award-winning journalist, having captured journalism's highest honor in 2018 and 2023. The Community Advocate has won several awards, including the Triad prestigious 40 Under 40 Award, the 2022, 2021, and 2020 Greensboro News and Records Reader's Choice Award, as well as notable awards from the Writers Guild and the NAACP in June. In June 2023, Tracy was featured on the cover of the shared her story on the June 23 issue of the North Carolina's O. Henry magazine. Tracy continues her work in the community, volunteering for several community organizations, and she and her husband, Jerron, are raising their family in Guilford County. So please welcome Tracy McCain.
Hi, everyone online, everyone who is in the building, our esteemed panelists. So glad that you could join us today to have this very important conversation about healthy lunches, and also how we can provide access to those lunches to our children. We have an esteemed panel today, and I can't wait to introduce you to these fine folks. We start with Senator Gladys Robinson, who represents District 28 and has spent 12 years in the North Carolina Senate, Serving first as first vice chair of the North Carolina Legislative Black Caucus, Senator Robinson is also the North Carolina-South Carolina co-chair of the National Black Caucus of State Legislators Region. Senator Robinson's expansive commitment to service also includes the North Carolina Board of Governors, the Governor State Health Coordinating Council, the Southern Regional Education Board, among many, many others. She's also the Bennett College for Women Board of Trustees chair, serving on the board of her alma mater. The Bennett Belle earned her undergraduate degree on one side of East Market Street, and then her master's and PhD degrees on the other at North Carolina A&T State University. Senator Robinson serves on several state health boards, school and political action boards, task forces, and advisory councils. And fun fact, she's also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, along with somebody else on this panel. With over 45 years of leadership of a thriving nonprofit and dedicated community leader, Senator Robinson's list of accolades and awards is long and it is well-deserved. Let's welcome Senator Gladys Robinson. Kayla Holland is next to Senator Robinson, and she is a nutritionist, licensed lactation consultant, and an expert resource on nutrition, food justice, food systems, and health equity issues impacting African-American communities. Kayla is responsible for program management and operational activities of the Center's food and nutrition program and healthy food initiatives to ensure goals and objectives are accomplished by work plans, funding, and other specifications. With a Master's of Science in Nutrition from Hunter College, complemented by a Bachelor of Science in Nutritional Science, she is uniquely equipped to address the complex challenges of food insecurity that minority communities experience. Kayla's dedication to advancing food justice and health equity emphasizes learning from the past to ensure a strong future. Please welcome Kayla Holland. Katie Herndon Dawkins is the Communications Manager for the North Carolina Alliance for Health. Katie earned her BA in American Studies from the University of North Carolina at Pembroke and her Master of Library Science degree from East Carolina University. Oh, Pirates. For the first 10 years of her professional career, Katie focused on formal education in public schools as a teacher and librarian. In 2012, she transitioned to the nonprofit world as Director of Discovery Place Kids, a children's museum in Rockingham, North Carolina. She joined the North Carolina Alliance for Health in 2020 and has enjoyed working in state-level advocacy for the past 3 years. A warm welcome to Katie Herndon Dawkins. Monique Nicholson is a native of North Carolina and was raised in the Fayetteville-Fort Bragg area. A self-proclaimed and proud military brat, Monique spent her elementary school years living and traveling throughout Europe. Monique is a proud North Carolina A&T State University graduate, where she obtained her BA degree in Speech Language Pathology, Audiology. She received her Master of Science in Education in Speech Language Pathology from the State University of New York at Buffalo State University. She holds active licenses to practice speech language pathology in North Carolina and in Virginia. Monique enjoys spending time with her husband and daughter Nadia as coach of her softball team. An avid community volunteer, she's a member of the Guilford County-wide Cyber Lions Club, where she is co-chair of the Lions Love to Read Literacy program, among other notable programs. While we welcome Monique, let's also welcome her daughter, Nadia. So a little bit about Nadia. She is a 6th grade student in Guilford County Schools. She enjoys piano and voice lessons, reading, drawing, learning history, skiing, playing softball, and sleeping. I love that part. Know who you are. She is a part of a pilot group of middle school students with the Lions Club. Nadia also participates in Drama Kids of the Triad, where she performed in the musical Seussical Jr. over the summer. When Nadia grows up, she aspires to be a medical scientist, focusing on cancer research in memory of her papa. It is great to have you here, Nadia. Betty T. Jenkins is the vice chair of the Guilford County Board of Education, where she represents District 7, working with 10 schools, their administrators, staff, students, families, and community partners to ensure a positive learning environment. Her love for serving children started in her hometown of Oxford, North Carolina, where she assisted underserved families at the local orphanage. She obtained her Bachelor of Social Work from North Carolina A&T State University and her Master of Social Work from the Joint Program at North Carolina A&T State University and UNC Greensboro. One of Betty's goals on the Board of Education is to ensure all students receive a balanced and nutritious daily hot meal while wiping out the school lunch debt of $111,000. She has written grants totaling $150,000 to fight food insecurity and aid transportation and education for high school and homeless students in her district. The Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated member is celebrated for her active role in the community and enjoys her top job as a mother of 2 and grandmother of 7. Yes, everyone please welcome Betty Jenkins. We should mention that includes a set of twins, right? The 7 grandchildren, 1 set of twins? 2 sets of twins. That makes it better. All right, thank you. All right, it is time to introduce you to Travis Fisher. He's joining us this morning to give us some fantastic insight on school meals for kids. He is the Executive Director of Student Nutrition for Guilford County Schools. Travis has served in this role in Guilford County for 1.5 years and brings experience from school districts in South Carolina and Texas, where he served as food service director. Travis graduated from the University of North Texas with a degree in hospitality, where he gained a love for restaurant management. But a wife and 2 children will change that. Travis changed his career to school food service to spend more time with them. Please welcome Travis Fisher. And last but certainly not least, would like to introduce you to Greensboro City Council member Goldie Wells. Hello, Goldie. Councilmember Wells represents District 2 and draws on her experience as a classroom teacher, educational supervisor, private school administrator, and community activist to fight for students in our community. Goldie earned her degrees from Hampton Institute, which now is Hampton University, North Carolina A&T State University, and UNC Chapel Hill. She is a proud mother of 1 granddaughter and grandmother of 3 children. Please welcome Greensboro City Council member Goldie Wells. I feel like we have all the right people up here with your vast experience to talk about food nutrition and making sure that students are not hungry. And so before we start our questions, I want to just go over some of the facts that 1 in 6 children across the state, including here in Guilford County, go hungry. No child, we all agree, should go hungry, right? That is a fact that we all share and probably a passion. Yet we know that many people are going hungry, many of them children, and they live in underserved communities mostly. So you're here to talk about how we can change that. And one of those ways is with the School Meals for All NC initiative. So let's go down the line here and talk about why this initiative is important to you. And Senator Robinson, we'll start with you.
Certainly, and
There you go.
okay. Well, good morning, afternoon, everybody. And this is important. I need to add, though, too, that I'm a member of the Grand Flora chapter of Links, certainly here with my Greensboro sisters as well. But I want to say that it's so important. One of the things I've advocated for in the legislature for almost 14 years is education, public education, and certainly meals for children. And we had a panel task force on that last year. And what the legislature has done, not very much as a matter of fact, but as a result of that effort, we have put an additional $6 million over the next 2 years into school meals. Not enough money, but if schools are part of the community education program out of the federal government, then that will help in terms of making sure all the children participate in school breakfasts and lunches. And so it's so very important that a child is able to eat. my children say to me, Mom, and they are 41 and 48, I think. But they say to me, Mom, we always remember that we ate every morning.
Mhm.
You got up and you prepared food before you took us to school. And my oldest daughter, who has children, does that for her children. So that's so very important. And I am sure that's why they were able to attain the kind of education and occupations they've been. So every child ought to be able to eat. It bothers me a lot
Mhm.
that we don't provide what we should in the state.
Okay. Kayla?
Thank you. I definitely would like to second that sentiment. Every child should be able to eat regardless of their household income, and especially in school. This issue and school meals for all North Carolina is important to me because food equity is important to me, just like I'm sure it is important to everyone in this room and in attendance on Zoom. We want to make sure that our children are eating because we want to make sure they're thriving. We want to make sure they're excelling in the classroom and able to fulfill their highest potential. And nourishment is a key component to getting them there. So thank you for joining us today. And I look forward to more discussion on the significance of this coalition.
Thanks, Kayla. And I'll just add to what Senator Robinson says, we're making progress, right? We're making some incremental progress. It means a lot to me because we don't know what these children experience at home. We don't know that just because their meal application says that their family has a certain income, we don't know what happens once they leave those school doors. We can only control the things that happen when those kids are in school. And we know that school meals are one of the most important school tools. And hungry kids can't learn. And if we want to support our kids and we want them to grow up to be contributing members of our society, then we need to make sure that they have what they need to succeed at school. And that starts with school meals.
School meals, it's important to me. We're asking children to sit all day trying to learn and they're hungry. I know as an adult, I get antsy. I can't concentrate. I lose focus. So, we have community partners that, they might provide food for children over the weekend. But then, Monday through Friday, at least we would know that twice a day that they're getting a full nutritional balanced meal. So that's why it's important to me.
I think that the program is important because all kids should have the opportunity to be able to eat with like their friends and enjoy their meals, and then after like school they get to also have meals because that drives your energy and that drives what you do. And if you don't have those meals, then you're going to be like lacking in one, nutrition, and then you won't be able to learn to your fullest ability. And some of the teachers wouldn't understand that. So then you're kind of left in this like hole of you're hungry and you're trying, but that's not enough to other people. So I think that this program is good to help that.
Wonderful.
That's my teacher. And she know that. I think that the meals are important because we send children to schools and we send them there to learn. However, they cannot learn if they don't have a nutritious meal. We expect for their brain to work. We expect for their body to work. They go to school to be educated and to be in a safe place, but they cannot learn to the full potential without being nourished. I also think that if we just dig in with other organizations can help them throughout the weekend. But once again, that is not a hot and nutritious meal. That is something to take the student from Friday afternoon to Monday morning. So I definitely think we need to advocate for a universal meal, and that is universal meal for all students. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's turned on, but. All right, good afternoon. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you very much for letting me be a part of this. I mean, to put it plainly, I'm willing to be and want to be supportive of any program that's going to help feed kids. The studies show obviously when they do have a nutritious meal, test scores are better. And if you think about it just in the simplest terms, if you're invited over to somebody's house, you go over there for a party, you're going to hang out 7 or 8 hours, and you never have anything offered to you to eat or drink, you're looking at your watch, you're trying to see, hey, I'm ready to go. Obviously, we don't want our kids, we don't want the students to feel like, hey, I'm ready to go because I'm not getting anything out of being here.
Right.
So that's part of, just as a simple, a way to simplify it. That's, plus the food insecurities and like, just to echo what everybody else has said, that nutritious meal, it may be the best meal that they get all day long, is our breakfast or our lunch, or maybe the only one, regardless, the only 2 meals that they get all day long. That's why I'm here and want to be, proud to be a part of this group.
Good afternoon. It's important to me. I'm a retired educator, started teaching second graders years and years ago, and realized that if students are hungry, they don't learn. And as educators, we want the children to do as much and go as high as they can and reach their highest potential academically. And it's impossible for them to do so. I have many days sent children to the lunchroom, go down to the lunchroom and tell them that you need some juice or you need something to eat because you can't think. And the problem that we have with the children who come from homes that don't have everything they need. I serve District 2 in Greensboro, and it's been proven that the life expectancy for East Greensboro is 15 years shorter than those who live in West Greensboro. And I'm thinking that it starts with these young children. If they don't get the right nutritious foods, then that's cutting their lifespan. So it's important for them academically and physically.
Well, thank you very much for all of your advocacy on this subject. Let's dig into our questions here. We're going to start with the budget, Senator Robinson. You touched on that a little bit in your introduction. Talk about how the recent budget could impact this mission.
Okay, well, thank you, Tracy. And I got a little ahead of your other question. I apologize for that, but
Oh.
my mind is always on what we ought to do better in the state, because as I looked across the data, and I was just in Nashville at the Southern Regional Education Board that I serve on, and I know that of all the states, guess who the state is that has risen
Oh,
almost to the top
North Carolina.
in education?
Oh, education. I thought you meant food insecurity.
No, well, and I'm linking the two.
Yeah.
It's Mississippi.
Mm.
Mississippi, and people say, oh, Mississippi has risen above us in terms of public education performance of children based on the NAEP. Yes, Mississippi. And that is also linked to what they do.
Mm.
They provide meals for all the children. breakfast and lunch. And a lot of the states do provide breakfast and lunch. All across this country, people recognize the importance of this, of feeding all the children. So we have been working on this for a long time in North Carolina. And the data that I have says that the $3 million recurring for all reduced price meals is what we've appropriated, and an additional 3 million non-recurring. Now, recurring means it continues. Non-recurring means one time, so that you're familiar with it. And so the estimate is that the non-recurring will probably not be needed, because finally the state is encouraging all LEAs, all local education authorities, to apply for and be a part of the community education program. Is it eligibility program called CEP? And I've never understood why all of them didn't apply. We know that children on free and reduced lunch can get the food, but what about the other kids who don't qualify? What about the other kids? So the community eligibility program from the federal government will help to close that gap, and North Carolina's appropriating an additional $6 million to help with that. And we expect that over the next 2 years, all of our schools in North Carolina will be able to feed all of their children, regardless of income.
For free.
For free.
That's great. I'm assuming there's some other people on our panel who know more about the CEP. If that's you, please feel free to chime in where Senator Robinson left off.
Well, I'm never going to claim to know more than a senator, but on anything.
We'll have to turn your microphone on.
See, I don't even know how to use a microphone, so. So Guilford County, we were able to add on 24 more schools this year through community eligibility provisions, which gives us 92 of our 122 schools. We're very close to being able to add one more. It was a brand new school that just opened up, our Sylvia Mendez Newcomers location. The first school in North Carolina named after a Latino, actually. So we're very proud of that. But under the community eligibility provision, yes, it is. It provides breakfast and lunch at no charge to those students. And they do have to qualify for it as a school. We look at direct certification numbers, the students that are directly certified, homeless, migrants, runaways. And as long as they're 40% of that school or above, then they can qualify. And regardless of the person sitting next to you, then it's like I said, it's free of charge for breakfast and lunch. We're not able to do every school in our district just yet. And that's why hopefully this panel is going to, push forward what we need to get done so that we can.
Right.
And I'll just add a little bit to that. The community eligibility provision is really confusing. There is a mathematical equation that goes with it that it's just crazy. But this year, North Carolina did see quite a number of schools who adopted the community eligibility provision. The one thing about the CEP is that, like he was saying, you can have some schools in a county who are able to do CEP, and then another one a few miles away that is not. And we believe that if school meals are good for one family, they're good for every family in this whole state. And so I'll just add on that the way school meals are funded from the federal government is based on reimbursement, and that's confusing. We just want to cut out the confusion, and School Meals for All can do that. And so I think that the calculations for why the schools can't do CEP is hard to understand, but we know that it's not financially able for some of those schools. Hopefully, with support from the state, those schools will be able to do it in the future.
So can I? Yes, please.
So you do know more about it than I do, and that's okay. That's okay, because we count on your knowledge. We can't know everything. That's why we push for the $6 million. So that will help schools, because it's important that all the schools and the CEP was real confusing to me as well a couple of years ago. It's kind of crazy, but that does mean the state has to do more in terms of getting the supplemental money. So you can tell me, it's all right.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting because if it's confusing on this level, imagine the parents at home. And as a mom myself, when forms come home and then they're like, but you have to be eligible. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not eligible. And then what do I do? And, there's so many questions that come with that. And, Monique, you're sitting next to your daughter. How do you navigate as a parent something that's confusing? As it's not for everyone, but some, and here's what you have to do. And if you don't fit this criteria, then what do you do?
So one of the things well, let me back up a little bit. When I became a little bit more aware of the amount of lunch balances in Guilford County, and that was through Miss Betty Jenkins. And Nadia was presented an opportunity to ask her, why are the lunch quality different for the students that have a lunch balance? So we've always taught her, when presented an opportunity, you advocate, you speak up in a respectful manner, but you speak up and ask those tough questions. So in finding out, what Guilford County's lunch balance was, then I actually found out what her elementary school at that time, that lunch balance. And so in speaking with Miss Betty and even with her principal at that time, it was, how do we get more parents to fill out that form, or guardians? I shouldn't just say parents. I'm going to say parents or guardians to fill out that forms. How do we get our school social workers and counselors to get that word out? And so that's kind of where, fortunately for us at the time as the PTA president, I was able to incorporate, our messaging a little bit more through our PTA. Unfortunately, not every school, has an active PTA organization at their school. So then that's just kind of where collectively the teachers, when they're communicating weekly to their parents, may it be via Dojo or Canvas or however, that they choose to communicate with their parents, that they also help enforce that message. Fill these forms out. You may not qualify, but just fill it out, because in the end, it may help with the data that will potentially allow for, additional funding.
Right. Because it's not just your home, it also counts as a community.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Yes, Goldie.
There is also another element when she said get parents involved. Some of them think it's a stigma that it will imply that they are poor.
Right.
And so they resist filling out the form and doing that. And then the students, sometimes when they are eligible, they don't want to take the lunch because they know people say they think we poor. So there's that element that we have to consider also.
I'm glad you said that. Kayla, would you want to talk about equity?
Yes, thank you. That's a great point. And that just reminds me of my personal experience when I was in grade school of helping my mom fill that form out, because my mom worked so long hours. She was always working. And I think the one thing that stuck with me was that in the determination of who's eligible or not, that form doesn't take into account whether you might be a twin or a triplet, or if your grandparents are living with you in your household, and other financial responsibilities that you have. That current system of whether you're eligible or not is definitely not the solution. I think the solution is school meals for all. And I also think that it's super important to make sure that everyone has access to these meals, because not everyone has access to a child at home who can help out to fill the form, or the parent might not be able to understand the form, might not have time to fill out the form. And we have definitely have room for improvement in that regard.
Yes, Ms. Jenkins.
Another barrier is having parents or guardians that maybe cannot speak the language.
Right.
We have also parents or guardians that cannot read. And I think one big thing we have going on there in Greensboro is we have a lot of parents that are homeless. They're
Right.
doubling up.
Right.
And so when you're doubling, you may have 3 or 4 families in the same house. And if one person got the application and lists everyone that's on there, that's living in that house under that particular parent, that means they all would get free and reduced lunch. So I'm definitely a push for universal lunch, universal meals, because that consists of breakfast and lunch.
Right. Absolutely. Nadia, did you want to add something?
I feel like if in the beginning of the school year, you get this form for not only meals, but also for dental and eyesight, and that some people will just throw it away because they know that their parents don't think that it's necessary, or some of them can't have like a voice for themselves. And at home, it's like they're really just nobody, and they may be living in a bad environment. So then they have to try to fill it out themselves, and to just try to get that meal for themselves instead of having that parent do it. So I'm pretty sure like the school, is it school? Yes. That the program is going to help, so then nobody will have to worry about filling it out themselves. And
Right. Right. And I bet you can also speak to Nadia. No one will have to worry about feeling a certain way when they go through the school lunch line, because everyone will have the same access to the same things. Can you talk about that?
I know that some people in my class in 5th grade, that in their line, they would have to step to the side because they would go through like the cafeteria where they cook the meals, and they would get a bagged meal. And that meal was not good at all. It only had like some bread and maybe like a fruit if they were able to afford the fruit.
Right.
And then they would still be in debt because they still would have to pay for that. So luckily, my middle school now, we don't have to worry about that. But still at the same time, I can go ahead and say that some of the meals don't include a lot. Like you may get 1 fruit and 1 vegetable, but there's always like a fruit roll up or some banana pudding, but that's extra money. And some people don't even have extra money on their card. So it's harder for them to get extra meals. And even if they have some meals, which I'm pretty sure they would be grateful for, being able to get that meal, they still end up going back to class hungry either way and feeling sick to their stomach, can't process anything, having a headache. So, yes.
Well, Nadia, thank you for providing that insight. That is really remarkable, and unfortunate and not fair. Travis, can you tell us why that is and how that works when kids go through school lunch lines, and then how to change that?
All right, sure. Currently in Guilford County, so let me back up for a minute. In the community eligibility provision schools, there's no paperwork that they have to fill out. So that's a plus. However, it's communicating with those families, hey, you don't have to do anything. It's already taken care of for free. There's a lot of parents that still don't know that. So we're trying to get word out about that. And you are right on the free and reduced applications for the non-CEP schools. We send those home, hoping that they'll fill them out. It's available online. We have English and Spanish, but we have over 25 different languages that's spoken in Guilford County. So So we're covering 2 of them, but we can't print it out in every language, unfortunately. And the idea behind it is obviously one thing that we have tried to implement throughout the district, regardless of the school, is that everyone does receive the same meal. That they qualify for the same meal, that there's not a separate line that anyone has to go through. There's not certain meals that they can or can't get, or entrees that they can or cannot get. They're open to whichever line it is, elementary, middle, and high school. We do have different menus with that. More choices, the better. USDA says that all students have to take at least 3 items, one of them being a fruit or vegetable. You're 100% right. 3 items, that's the minimum. I mean, we have more than 3 items in these boxes here today, I believe. So, so obviously the minimum isn't good, but they're allowed to take other items. We try to provide seconds on fruits and vegetables that they can come back to. But again, it's communicating that to the students, to the teachers, to the principal, that, hey, come on back for a second for another apple, take it home. Come on back for another banana, a second helping of green beans or broccoli, something like that. When we did get into meal debt, unfortunately, then that's when the infamous alternative meal was placed out there. And that's the meals, unfortunately, that are different than the actual meal. The only thing, the part that's different is that the entree or the protein is left. I'm going to say the entree because there's protein in beans, peanut butter, things like that. So the entree is left off of that, but they're still allowed as many sides as they want. We try not to, and I've had to correct some people or some of my staff of, hey, we're not going to send them through a different line. We're not going to package it any differently. But that's an ongoing communication that, that's a burden on me. But that's, I welcome that because I don't ever want any students to feel like that they're less than, or they don't have the money, or because it's not their fault. At the end of the day, it's not their fault that mom or dad or grandma or whomever didn't pay for that lunch debt. And that only occurs once they hit $20 in debt. And as we said earlier before, Ms. Jenkins right here helped raise over $100,000 to cover our school lunch debt last year. So that was fantastic. And thank you again for that. Yeah. So we're hoping with the additional 24 CEP schools giving us 92 total, that her work will be much less needed, but still greatly appreciated. So, but you're right. It's we need to figure out ways to provide 100% free meals for everyone, regardless of what school they go to or what their income status is. And on the free and reduced applications, part of the problem with those is that it asks for household size. So you could have 3 different families living in the household. Legally, you're supposed to put everyone in there, whether they contribute to paying the bills or not, whether they contribute, they may pay their own family's bills, but if they're not lending money, if they're not giving money to support that one student, then it goes against, it kind of penalizes that student. So hopefully we can get better with that and we can do away with all of them.
Well, a number of
paperwork, too.
people have looked at me and asked for the mic, so I gotcha. We're gonna start with Betty Jenkins, because your name was mentioned in terms of raising these funds and the grants to cover some of the school lunch debt. But what else did you want to add?
I want to add that our alternative meal was a vegetable, a fruit cup, milk, water, and a roll. I disagreed with that. And I talked to Mr. Fisher about it and also the superintendent. And that's what made me push to raise as much money as I could. And Senator Robinson and a couple from the ledge also donated money to that. But if you had a peanut butter jelly sandwich or a grilled cheese sandwich, that's something that's more that would stick to your ribs, as my grandmother would say, other than a fruit cup and veggie. So I'm not sure which route we're going to take this year, because it was said that if you do the peanut butter and jelly or the grilled cheese, it's just like a meal. But to me, it's not like a meal. So I'm still gonna have some conversation about that. So I haven't given up yet. And it takes a long time for me to give up, those who know me. So I'm gonna still fight this fight, and we're gonna fight it together, and we're gonna win with the peanut butter and jelly or grilled cheese instead of a veggie, fruit cup, roll, water, and milk.
Was it Nadia or Monique did you want to say something, Nadia?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I think that when they were saying, that, with the form, and if you, like, after your debt, it's like $20, and then after that, some of the parents will like hold it up and say, oh, I'll do it whenever I get my monthly check or my weekly check. But then at the end of the day, they're not getting that, or their priorities are not to clear that debt, but to keep that roof over, like,
Yeah.
their
Baby girl is preaching. Yeah.
And with that, it also comes more and more and more money. And then they're back in the situation where they have a debt and they don't know how to like clear it out because they can't get their meal. And then all of their friends are saying, oh, why do you have like that meal? Do you want to have some of my food? Like why do you have that? And it's hard to explain because you don't want them to see you as the less fortunate kid.
Right.
They just want to see you as like your friend
Right.
instead of seeing you differently because of your income, which is not even in your control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why with the school meals for all, that like hopefully this won't like happen and we won't have to be in like so much debt.
Right. Yes. You know what? That was really well said. Very well said. You're raising a great daughter, Monique.
Thank you
You
so
are.
much. Thank you. But I just want to comment, $100,000 raised for lunch balances. If we had lunches for all students, free lunches or free meals, I should say, for all students, do you realize what $100,000 could do for additional resources for our schools? And I mean for our teachers. So that puts it into perspective, that amount. And hopefully, this year our lunch balance will be less, but with the school meals for all, we wouldn't have to worry about it. And we could focus our attention, the resources going to something else besides Miss Betty, and all the other community leaders and partners taking funds for our balance that could be used for something else.
And I'll just add, on like a family level, the same thing. If we have school meals for all, then the money that they're using for school breakfast and lunch, they can then put back into the economy in other ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kayla, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to add also to each of our minds today that just because a household is deemed ineligible doesn't mean they're not struggling. And we are here also fighting for those children who, after their parents took the time to fill that form out, and they were told that they're ineligible, whether that was by $1 or $20, they're still having to come to school every day, unsure if their parent put the money for lunch or breakfast on the counter, and unsure if they're able to get the meal that they need to focus on their math test, to pass their social studies quiz and so forth. And it's really important that, to me, I think it's really important that we ask ourselves the question of why we're doing this, who we're doing it for. And the answer really is our children. And I just want to say thank you again for everyone who's in attendance and in support of this work, because it's our responsibility to fight for our children and fight for their access to receive the food that they need to thrive.
You know, I think the real issue, and maybe, I can't remember your name, the executive director of the nutrition program at Guilford
Travis.
County, Travis, you can help to explain this formula, because there are several federal programs, the National School Lunch Program and the CEP and all of those. But I think the real issue is because even with the CEP, parents still have to pay, what, 30 cents or 40 cents or something, unless they don't have to anymore. Okay. Yeah, the reduced price. There is one that parents have to pay. And maybe you can explain how that works in terms of what are the subsidized and what are the non-subsidized. The CEP, if the whole school participates, you don't have to pay. Am I right? Okay. But see, even people like me don't understand all these different formulas. I just understand that the state ought to pay for all. So that kids don't have to go hungry. So that they don't have to go hungry, because it's ridiculous. You know, if you don't have 30 cents to send for this subsidized program, and you've got to make the decision between paying your rent, buying food in general, you know, and all the things that parents, low-income parents, or even parents who have a little money,
Absolutely.
you know, in this economy have to do. It's ridiculous that a child has to go hungry. I remember when, and this is off subject, but my mom, I was real poor, y'all, from Georgia. But my mom worked in the cafeteria. And it did not matter. They had the USDA meals and all of that stuff. She fed everybody. She cooked and she fed everybody. And this day and time, I cannot figure out for the life of me, the more, Travis, that I investigate, why in the world, with all the $9 billion extra dollars that we have in the state, why we can't feed all the children. Now, maybe you can explain the different programs we apply for and what we have, but it is absolutely ridiculous. And maybe this is something we need to look collectively at, Beggity, figure out how much additional money Guilford County needs to feed all the kids. And then we work with the city and the county and the state, and then put that money in.
Yeah. Yeah, Councilwoman, well, yep, just push it up. And once it's pushed up, you should be great.
Well, Senator Robinson was asking the question. She can't understand why. Well, we have the right person here. A lot of things that we see on our level. I serve on city council. She serves on the school board, but things have to happen in Raleigh. Things, the changes that we need in laws, the money that we need for our budgets has to come from Raleigh. So it's a blessing that you have Senator Robinson here today to hear, because you have to have advocates down there in that legislative building that stand for and keep asking and get others to join them across the aisle to get something done. So the problem, and you're saying you can't understand it. Yeah, but I know you don't understand all the programs. Yeah, but I'm just saying you are key. I know it doesn't make sense. And so you have the ear of people down there, that legislative building. So we will have another advocate, because that's where it really happens. You said all the money we have there in the end, but we got to get it released so it can come back and do what needs to be done. So we're putting a lot on your shoulders, but yes.
Senator Robinson's used to having a lot on her shoulders, I'm sure, but she is doing a great job advocating for people and families in Raleigh, and you all are, and we thank you for that. Travis, you wanted just to add something to this conversation, or did you want to explain?
Well, so as we talked about before, the CEP, Community Eligibility Provision,
Yeah.
that's no charge to anyone for breakfast or lunch. They used to have, as of a few months ago, there was a reduced price. It was free or reduced price or full pay. Free is obviously free. Reduced price was 30 cents for breakfast and 40 cents for lunch to meet a certain criteria. However, that has gone away. So the state has provided, or USDA has provided money to cover. So anyone that falls into the reduced category is actually free this year as well.
Okay,
So I think that was $6 billion that was sent over. I mean, not sent over to me or anything, but was put into the state budget
right,
in order to cover the reduced price. So if they qualify for reduced, then it's free for this year as well, breakfast and lunch.
right. And that is for this year. Is that for every year continuing?
That's-
free. Now, the 3 million
Oh.
recurring.
Grab your microphone
I'm
so we
sorry.
can all hear you.
Yeah, the 3 million is recurring and the other 3 million is non-recurring, assuming, Travis, that the community eligibility program is adopted by all the LEAs. But my issue is, and Goldie, you're right. I fight as hard as I can because it ought not to be a discussion about who's eligible and who's not. This money, yeah, this is what we're talking about. If the parent fills out the form and they're eligible, but that's paperwork. And that's talking about who's eligible based on income. That is crazy, isn't it? Isn't that crazy, y'all? Because everybody ought to be able to eat, especially children at school. So there's something wrong with our system. And we must not, Travis, how much would it cost if the state gave enough money, not just for those children who are eligible based on the CEP, but for the other children who need to eat at school?
I couldn't put a dollar amount on that yet. Just from last year, the donations, the school meal debt was around $125,000 total. But that's after, literally hounding and reminding and sending letters home and phone calls and emails to parents to, hey, go ahead and pay your bill, pay your bill, pay your bill, that we were able to do that. And a lot of people did make donations. So it would be, it's to put a dollar figure on that. Sitting here, I wouldn't be qualified to do that. I'd have to.
Kayla, did you want to add something?
Sure. I don't know if I'm qualified to put a dollar on that either. But I do know that we have looked into it and we are under the impression that it would take $120 per child per year to make sure that our children are eating breakfast and lunch in school at no cost for the state to make that happen.
Wow. It doesn't, go ahead,
I
Kate.
was just gonna say, and that's by maximizing federal drawdowns through like
Mhm.
CEP and things like that.
Mhm.
So.
There was a conversation down there. I didn't know if you wanted to share it. Did you want to share that? What were you guys talking about down there? I got mom ears.
Right around, a little over 68,000 students.
Okay. Yeah. Right. That's out of my. Yeah.
Also, once you have a debt of $130,000, for example, and pay that off, that's not the end all,
Right.
because kids are still eating. So that's why it's hard to come up with a base figure
Right.
on that.
Right. Oh, go ahead, Nadia.
also, if there's like 3 million or any amount of money, that may last you a year for all schools in Guilford County, if that, and then you still are gonna get back in debt the following school year. And there's a very high chance that there's even more debt than there was the following year,
Mhm.
previous year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And that's kind of one of the things that, Kayla does is, analyze the disparity and try to target equity, not only in the food choices for students, but also the access to students. And your story earlier about, how you had to fill out forms for your parents, that's still happening today, right? So we know that years later, that the problems that were a problem then are still a problem today. So we know that this program is not just for Guilford County, it's all of North Carolina. Mecklenburg has a high lunch debt, Mecklenburg County, so does Wake County, every county in North Carolina does. So I'm glad we're using Guilford County as an example, but there are hundreds of thousands of kids across the state who need to hear this. And so if people online are listening to this and they represent other areas, make sure you take this information back to your own community and start advocating for your children in different ways. I wanted to ask about some of the barriers, because we know that this is a great program and it could solve all the problems, but yet it's not getting the support that it needs, not from this panel, but outside. Do we need a communication effort? What needs to happen to make sure that something like this, which, makes sense to all of us, actually is implemented?
We need to raise awareness.
Raise awareness. Councilwoman Wells, will you? Yes, please. I'm so sorry. I can hear you, but.
Okay, we need to raise awareness. I'm on the panel, but I'm gaining knowledge. So the average citizen, the average parent probably doesn't even know what we are facing. This is a challenge for the whole state of North Carolina. And I think we're able to do it. I did read that there were some states that are doing that, and it has made an impact, positive impact. And I think that if we get the word out, and we have to let our senators and all of our legislators, those who are in Raleigh, you talk to us. We can help, but you need to talk to those folks. Just call them and say, we are concerned about the free lunch for all students in North Carolina. And I think when we let them know that we are concerned, I think people like Senator Robinson will get on and start working on it. So I think that's the first step, awareness.
Awareness. Would you agree with that, Travis? Awareness and communicating, getting word out to parents and communities?
Oh, definitely. I mean, no one communicates well enough. And obviously the problems, it's easy to, well, that's not my problem. I don't even have kids in school anymore. I'm not saying that, which I don't, but
That's right. But you hear that.
they're college, right. That's what you hear, that's not, just to let everyone know, what's the issues that are going on out there. And like, if you don't have kids in school, or they already graduated out, then you don't really think about it. You don't consider it. When, it's the cliche of they're our leaders of tomorrow. How are we taking care of them now? And it's about the students. And hopefully, everyone has a supportive superintendent like we do, a supportive school board that we do, that is advocating for free meals for all. But I think you're 100% correct on just communicating out there, hey, here are the issues. And that's part of what Ms. Jenkins was able to do. We had donations coming in from people that just lived in the area, that didn't have any kids that went to the school, to a specific school or anything. So we just say, hey, here's $500 to just put it to wherever it needs to go. And those are the type of people that hopefully we can continue to reach out to and just make aware of the situation, what we have.
Kayla, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Yes, I just wanted to echo that sentiment and say that as we're all trying to increase awareness and share this message in our communities, I think it's important for us all to remember that there is no person too small, no voice too small that can, like everyone can contribute to spreading the word. I think Miss Nadia Nicholson up here is a great example of everyone can help to make this happen. Child, parent, teacher, principal, anyone in North Carolina can join in this effort and join the School Meals for All North Carolina Coalition in support of this legislation to ensure every child in every public school has access to breakfast and lunch at no cost.
All right.
When you were saying about barriers, there's a lot of barriers. There's language and communication. And if you don't speak that language, then it's going to be hard for you to pay that bill or understand what you're having to commit to for a full school year. So, wait, I lost my train of thought. Well, yes, but it's more, when you say interpreters, it's more of in like high school and middle school. There's the only interpreter that there was in my school was for people who were hard of hearing. That was it. So people who, because there was a lot of people in my school that were from the Philippines or were Indian or Hispanic. So they didn't understand what the teachers were trying to say. And the teachers aren't like implying or also adding to their curriculum other languages so then people can understand it, people can communicate with them. So yes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You know, language is certainly a barrier, and that needs to be taken into consideration. So you make a very great point. Yeah. Did anybody else want to touch on this subject before we move on to, I want to talk about our homeless population and community, because they're often forgotten, even though there are many children and families who are homeless and do rely on free meals and don't have, I guess, I don't want to say access, but don't have the awareness about the program. So how do we specifically target those who have a higher need? Yes, Ms. Jenkins, I was looking at you.
How we target the homeless, we have a homeless coordinator, Gifford County Schools, that does a great job as far as mainstreaming the kids into the right setting, meaning the school, also pairing up with teachers. And they know that we have a relationship, and I do mean a relationship with the caretaker or with the students, because it's all about building relationships. We try to make sure that they receive all the services that they need, whether that's extra tutoring, because sometimes they have been out of school for a while and they need to catch up, be placed in certain classes. And as far as meals concerned, they receive free lunch because of the fact of the McKinney-Vento Act. And that's an act of a law that you have to follow when you're experiencing homeless or people who are working with homeless students.
That's great. Is there a box on the form, or are they identified in a certain way before the form even gets, because we don't even know if the form gets home?
The advocate, let's say, for example, Salvation Army, Center for Hope, they house homeless kids and families. We know if you're living at, I'm gonna make up an address, 1300 South Elm Street, in that district, maybe Jones Elementary, we know that address go to Salvation Army.
Got it.
And so, we can pair it that way, but when you're doubling up with other families, you know, they'll go in to the office and they'll let them know that I'm staying with XYZ. So therefore, it's common knowledge.
Right.
And sometimes they may be afraid to tell, but when that child get in the classroom, the child can tell it all. We love to communicate with our kids. That increase their language level.
Yeah.
And it also make us aware of things that they're going through so we can assist them.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was gonna just say that homelessness is one of those categories where they're automatically eligible. And homelessness doesn't look like a lot of people think it looks.
Mhm.
Sometimes it means you're spending one night in a hotel room on this side of town and then you're in another hotel room. Sometimes it means you're living with a friend, you're just couch surfing. It looks different depending on who you are. And we put a lot of responsibility on those people in the school system, the social workers, the outreach coordinators, to find out who those people are and make sure that they are getting everything that they need. And they're doing a great job doing that. So I'm just going to shout out to those people in the school system
Awesome.
because it's not the children's fault.
Mhm.
It is not. And we have put this burden on them, this meal debt, this worry. It's not, we shouldn't do that to these children.
Mhm.
They are not responsible for some of their circumstances in life, and we should give them everything that they need while they're at school.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kayla, did you want to say something? I saw you.
I think everything that was said was beautifully said. And when it comes to our children who are in high need situations and circumstances, I think we need to remember it's our job to fight for them. It's our job to make sure that if they're hesitant to share that I'm staying at my cousin's house and I'm mom or dad has not been able to have a stable housing situation for them, that they don't have to be the one to change their circumstances. It really is our job to make sure that they have what they need, just like Katie said. It's really our job.
Wonderful. We're going to take some questions here from our audience, and we're going to allow you guys to answer their questions. Is there anyone here that would like to ask our esteemed panelists a question about this discussion about school meals for all? Yes, ma'am. Dr. Ruth?
Hello, I'm Shana. I am Shana Shoemate, and we were talking earlier about the school debt. I have volunteer time for Gopher Backpack Ministry. We are one of the community partners in the Northwest Northern District, because in our area, people think that there's no food insecurity because it's an affluent area, right? But we do have a large population, about 16%, and those kids need to eat. But we were having a conversation about what is the money that comes in through the lottery? Where's that going?
Great question. I think we're all shuffling the mic now because it's such a great question.
Complicated.
I'm going to pass it to the senator.
That's a great idea.
Well, I'll tell you what it says in the state. I have to assume that they are being honest. But some days I wonder. Anyway, it says in our budget that the school, in terms of the lottery, certain percentage of that, of course, goes to operations. And then, or you call it administration. And then a certain percentage goes to what you see in terms of making sure that the tickets are out and all of that. And then it goes into the capital fund in terms of building schools in our state. Unfortunately, we tried to do a capital school bond at the state, and that was not approved by the legislature so that we could do it statewide. Now, I support it, but we have no control. I'll just be honest. I don't have any control as a state senator who's a Democrat. I don't have any control. I can say all I want. But unless the majority who are Republicans and say, we're going to do this, it doesn't happen. The Capitol building, the way that money is used right now is based on a tier system. The counties, tier 1, tier 2 are supposedly, and they are poor counties. If you ever travel, and I know you have, the eastern part of our state, some of those schools are awful. Guilford County really, because it has a supplement, is doing better in terms of us having a bond that we've been able to put in place. Some of the poor counties don't have that. So the lottery money helps in terms of them applying to be able to build 1 or 2 schools. It's not sufficient because that's the way the lottery is allocated. I know when you approve the lottery, you said it will go to schools. And basically it does, but it's not sufficient in terms of how they distribute the money.
Another
Great
question?
answer.
We have one question online, and I'm gonna come to you next.
Hi, everyone. I am Shanice Roach. I'm with the Center for Black Health and Equity, and I'm back here monitoring the Zoom. We have 2 comments from our partners from North Carolina Alliance for Health. One's from Marion, stating the lottery funds largely supplanted instead of supplementing school funding. And then going back to the conversation about funds, Morgan Whitman, Gramman stated it would take about 5.6 million to provide school meals for all in Guilford County and about 170 million for the entire state. So just a few comments that we had there. And then a question that we had from Elaine, does Medicaid expansion help school lunches and families in any way?
Good question.
Yeah, you want me
Yes,
to
please.
answer it? Medicaid expansion that just passed. I want you to remember that we passed the law. As a matter of fact, I filed the bill for Medicaid expansion. The very first bill, Senator Blue and I filed. And it took 2 years for it to come around. No, it didn't take 2, it took 10.
Yeah.
What's wrong with my mind today? It took 10 years. And so it was approved, it passed in April. However, the legislature decided that it was going to be tied to the budget, which is not fair. So until the budget passed, Medicaid expansion was not enacted. We just passed the budget in September, just passed the budget. Medicaid expansion will not become effective until December 1. December 1 of this year, it will be effective. And that means that people can enroll. The state will begin to enroll people. It does not support meals in terms of school meals, if people are asking that. It does support health care for those folks who are in the gap. Now, when I talk about the gap, I'm not talking about poor people who folks thought initially that it was the folks who don't work. No, it's for the working poor. These are people who go to work every day and don't make enough money to pay for health care. That's who it supports. So it's not just 600,000. That role has increased, especially since COVID. And unfortunately, because our state waited so long to approve Medicaid expansion, some people have fallen off the rolls who were covered under COVID. Because of the funding that came from COVID, everybody who was in that gap had health insurance, if you were in that gap. But it terminated with the federal funds. So if we had gone on and approved Medicaid expansion, people would not have lost their health care. Now they will have to re-enroll. Quite a few of them will have to re-enroll. And as I'm saying that, I just got an email from DHHS saying that we're looking for people who are willing to be trained to share information on Medicaid expansion and how folks will re-enroll. So if any of you are interested, I'll be glad to pass that information on to Dr. Ruth because she has the sign in and she can send that out to all of you.
I'll just follow up with that. While Medicaid expansion doesn't provide like funds for school meals, North Carolina does participate in Travis might be able to say this a little bit better, but families that were already on Medicaid, they're directly certified and North Carolina was part of the pilot. So it did make a lot more families already eligible for free meals, and a lot of the schools and school districts across the state were able to use that as part of their identified student percentage, which goes into that super complicated CEP equation that I was telling you. And so that participating in that did allow more schools to take advantage of the CEP. So I guess no, it's not Medicaid expansion, but that is the Medicaid direct certification did help more kids.
You know, it's also confusing, but I am clear on that piece. Medicaid beneficiaries is who
Yep.
you're talking
Yep.
about. And if you're a Medicaid beneficiary, then you are eligible for the free and reduced lunch at schools. Now, the Medicaid expansion is a different pot of money, and that is for the working poor people. So that's not the same program. No,
Right.
no direct funding.
Right.
Hi, my name is it on? My name's Dale Strayhorn, and I might have missed something, but after the advocacy for Meals for All, exactly who needs to hear that so the money can flow where it needs to flow?
Great question. Another great question. Please confirm if I'm understanding your question correctly. You're saying who exactly needs to hear the message that School Meals for All North Carolina is the solution for our children? Is that what you're asking?
Right.
The decision makers, the legislators, the senators. Yes, ma'am. And how do we make that happen? I'm assuming you're asking is having town halls like this, coming to town halls like this so that we can better equip ourselves with information that we can then share with more people in our community. So you're in the right place. Everyone on Zoom, you're in the right place. And our job is to continue to spread this message and get the word out so that legislators can hear us. So they can know that their district and people in their district are in support of School Meals for All North Carolina.
Well, before she says anything, then we need to help her. And the only way we can help her in the legislature is to vote.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
That's just where I am.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Is that what you were gonna say?
I have another question. I have another question here and then here.
Hello, so I don't have an actual question, but my name is Ishani and I'm with Moms Rising. We're fighting for same thing, young single adults who are trying to survive. And I just want to say thank you guys for having this event because I have a baby and I'm about to have another one. So I know how it is with school lunches. I remember being back in school where they tried to say my mom made too much. So I ended up having to pay for school lunches. It was a misunderstanding at the end of the day, but it's still crazy how people have to go through that. We're struggling, we're trying to make it on these low wages and stuff, and having to focus on how our child is going to eat or what they're going to eat. It's not cool. So I just want to say thank you guys for supporting us and us supporting you guys.
Good afternoon. I'm Janet Barnes, head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and we deal with a lot of this. And on one of the newscasts, it said it was almost $100,000 where kids had paid for lunch and the money was not refunded. And I want to know what you do with that money. And then secondly, when you're talking about Wake County has over 5,000 homeless kids. So you're talking about trying to find the dresses and stuff like that. That's not happening. And then the other thing that's happening is that with the new legislature, they can't even stay at the hotels now for the first 90 days that was passed. And that was, with the McKinley veto, which would give them a home for a couple of days. Did you not hear everything I said? Okay. And it's those things that we're talking about. I mean, when you look at just Wake County with that many homeless kids, when they talk about what's left over where the kids pay for, they didn't say that they was going to give the money back because the kids have already graduated, not even at the school. So what I would like to know is what happened to that money? And if it's not yours, then send it back to the school so that their kids that's enrolled in their schools can use those funds.
I can try to speak on that a little bit. So I can't speak for Wake County. I'm not sure what Wake County has financially or what they need financially. I know in Guilford County, we were able to, the donations that we received went 100% towards school meal debt. Because and unfortunately, as much as we were able to raise, as much as Ms. Jenkins was able to raise, it was still not enough. We were still about $25,000 short. So there wasn't leftover money. If students have money on their account, if they're in, fourth grade, they have $20 on their account, then it rolls over automatically to the next school year. If that helps answer the question at all. But again, I'm not sure what Wake County does. But.
So what you're saying is that if the kid is in this school this year and they go to another school and they had money, you transfer that money to school to follow the kids.
Yes, ma'am.
And you make sure that it's taken care of, because they was talking about how much money was left on students' accounts. So I just wanted to make sure I understood and had clarification as to what happened there. And the other thing is, how do you fill out the paperwork when you're talking about homeless kids? Because a weekend ago, we had kids that were sleeping in the parks. How can you identify these kids and make sure that they are getting the free and reduced lunch? And then the other thing with the program this summer, the kids had to go to a specific location to get the food, and they did not have transportation. So a lot of the food that was supposed to have been utilized during the summer, the kids did not get it. And whether it's the spring, the fall, or the summer, the kids are still hungry. So
I hear you, Jan. I know Jan. We've worked together with the NAACP for a long time. The decision about the summer lunch programs actually was from school system to school system. Guilford County handled its way. I don't know what Wake County did. I really don't. But that was a school system issue. I need to tell you too that the issue you mentioned about homeless people not being able to stay at hotels, is that what you said? Right. That's right. And that was a request actually by the retail merchants, by the hotel people who own the hotels. And unfortunately, we voted against that. Of course it passed. It passed because we're not a majority. We're not a majority, but the hoteliers are the ones who lobbied for that. And the folks who control the votes passed it. And I guess people said they could sympathize with that. But it means too that places like Guilford County, and I know that Guilford County is one of those because I've worked with the coalition here, really had agreements with hotels in terms of what hotels would house homeless people. And that legislation actually overrode that because there are hotels who would agree, but now it won't happen. But it's like the lady said here, and I can't see who she is, but you got to vote. You just got to vote. If you want to change these bad policies, you must vote. And you got to vote for people who care about children, people who will put money in school lunches, people will put money in housing A lot of people are homeless because they can't afford the rent. Do you know that the average, this isn't
Yeah,
on
I
the
know.
subject, Tracy, I'm sorry.
No, it's true.
But you
though.
know, the average apartment now costs $1,200 a month.
A month,
That's more than your mortgage.
right?
And so people cannot afford it. They have to move out and move with somebody else. That's what's going on.
We have an,
Oh, I think
anybody else want
Nadia
to
wanted-
add?
Did you want to?
One thing is that with the school, when you go to kindergarten, you get a school number, and that number will carry on until you graduate. So you put money on that card, and that card has your school number on it, and it has like your ID in the system. So then if you may have $43 on your card, and then you can go to a new elementary school or a new middle school, and since you still have that same number, the number won't change. You will still have that same amount of money as you did at your previous year.
Thank you.
Right, we have another comment in the virtual space, and then we have a question, and that might close us out.
Okay, perfect. This is from Panisse, and they said, it's not a hard solution. Feed the children at whatever cost. That's how our kids end up in gangs. It start off by just trying to get the basic necessities, food, clothing, and shelter. Once they get that, they become part of a gang to rob, steal, kill, and destroy because they owe the gang members, and the way out is death. Death of the child or other family members if you don't cooperate, or prison. The government doesn't have any issue with building more prisons.
Good afternoon, Ashley Johnson. Just a quick question with someone who doesn't have kids, but I consider myself to be an ally to parents, and I grew up in Guilford County. So I've got two questions. One, what is the cost of a fully balanced meal, breakfast and lunch at the school? And I'm assuming that this is just those 30 schools that don't participate in the CEP that I just learned about.
Right, right.
The second thing is the schools that do participate in the CEP or that are CEP, I don't know the
Yes.
proper terminology. How is the information disseminated to the parents and students that they have free lunch? During this conversation, I text a friend and I said, how is your son, how does he get school lunch? Like, does he stand in the line? Like, how does this process work? And she says, oh, it's free for everyone. I'm like, okay, well, how did you know that? Do you know that if it's a CEP school? And she said, I have no idea what you're talking about, Ashley. And this is a therapist. I mean, she has a social work degree. She had no idea that that's his program. She just knows that her kid goes to high school and he gets free lunch. So with someone with that high level of education, if they're not informed, how are we informing our other parents and even our students? So one solution, when I was in school, we had like pep rallies or auditorium announcements. Are your guidance counselors and school teachers making that announcement there? Are they equipped with the resources to say, hey, you know, Jane Doe, that everyone gets free lunch. Go ahead and get in line. This is nothing to be ashamed of. So yeah, it's a lot of rambling, but I want to know personally, how much does school lunch cost? So that I can gather people with me so we can pay for these school lunches in these 30 schools that don't have free lunch.
Thank you.
All right. I guess I get to take that one again.
Yes, that one is yours.
No, so recently our superintendent and our school board was very adamant about not raising meal prices for the students this last year, the year before. So right now, breakfast is $1 and lunch is $2.85. And so with that, yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that was one protein or an entree, one side, and stuff. Did that include, but not even mentioned, sometimes it's banana pudding, or there are these other ancillary things? Did that $2.85 include your whole a la carte meal, or is this just this 3-item lunch that you are getting for $2.85?
So the 285, that covers, it's an entree. You have to take a fruit or a vegetable. I try to have, one of the things that we try to do, as far as best practices go, is have multiple items to make sure that kids can find the vegetable they like, the fruit that they like, those sort of things. When I was a kid, my favorite vegetable was corn. So luckily I've come to find out that's not a vegetable. It was so disappointing. But every meal that my grandmother would fix, there was corn in that because at least I was eating that. So to introduce new vegetables, new fruits to the students, that's a very important thing to do to try to get them on board, to try to figure out, because if their parents don't like it, they're probably not buying it. If grandma doesn't like it, then they're probably not fixing it at home. So one of the things that we do is to try to provide that. But to answer the question, it's 3 items as minimum, but they can have 5, 6, 7 items. If they want a bag of chips, then that costs extra, unless we work it into the menu cycle. We'll make pudding and things like that. There's different items that we'll make. We try to have a 3-week menu cycle that has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different entrees to choose from, depending on the level, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school. There again, trying to entice as many kids to eat as possible. And if they want something different, if they want something in addition to that, then that's where it does cost money for that. But it's a full tray of food, milk included, for the $2.85. And I don't know what was.
Wait, before you move on to the other part, Travis, do you know how much it actually costs to prepare the meal? Like, not how much the students pay, but the cost to the school nutrition services? Is it $2.85? Is it $3? Is it $4.50? Is it?
Well, so that's that's the hard part. So I have $2.85 to make a complete meal, to offer 4, 5, 6 items, whatever it's going to be. Milk right off the bat is 25 cents. So if I can try to keep the cost around $1.35 for the cost just of the food, that doesn't cover what's the tray that it's on, the napkins, the straws, the forks, the labor that goes into it, the chemicals to clean the kitchen, anything like that. So that's, I've got to combine all of that in there for the $2.85. So food costs, plate cost around is between $1.35 and $1.45, depending on which entree. Usually the entree is the most expensive. We do try to have some premium entrees that we can offer, but it's not a different price. It's the same price for everyone. Such as a Papa John's pizza that we bring into the schools. That's the same. That'll run us a little bit more, but there again, we're hoping to entice kids to come into the cafeteria for that. But breakfast for $1 is extremely hard to do. I mean, I don't want to say that we lose money on every breakfast that we serve, but basically we do. But there again, that's for the benefit of the students. So.
And I know we're running late
There's
on
one-
time.
Yeah, we have one last question, and I'll bring you up for the,
Sure. I
for
just
call
wanted to
to
make sure we address that second half of the question of how do we get the word out, right? How do we communicate to parents and students that they do have access, that if they are hungry, they can go take advantage of that breakfast or lunch if their school is participating in the CEP option. I think what Ms. Monique Nicholson mentioned earlier about advocating within your PTA at a school is a great example. Advocating within your church network, within your community is a great way to make that clear. And I think the school can definitely do more to make that clear. And we're going to do our part to make sure that not only are our children having access to these meals, but they know that they have access so they can take advantage of it when they need.
I can speak for the schools in District 7. Open house is mentioned. On the intercom for the announcements, it's mentioned. When you have 101 parent conferences, it's mentioned. When you have Title I meeting, it's mentioned. When you have rallies in the auditorium, it's mentioned. So it's mentioned at least 7 times, along with it being mentioned in the classroom.
I just want to add the principal, when her middle school this year was one of the schools selected, as a CEP school. And the principal leading up probably a week or two before school started, he started announcing that the school was a designated CEP school. He stated what that meant in his calls, and he was doing kind of like that like robo call, maybe about 3 times a week. And then when school started, he sent a message every single day, just reminding one about filling out the forms, providing the link in his weekly or in his daily call, as well as just reminding that lunches or meals are free. So.
All right, we have another question virtually. Go ahead.
Yes, our last question virtually, is it cheaper to feed an inmate in North Carolina than to provide free meals for all North Carolina students?
I think that the objective of that question is to get us to think about it, not answer, it, right? Let's, yeah. I don't know if anyone on our panel can answer that directly, but I am very thankful that the person in the chat has voiced that question so that we could all think about that and link that back to why we're here today and making sure our children are nourished above anything else.
Right. We have one last burning comment, and then going to take it over to you, Kayla, for the call of action.
As I sit here and listen to the panel and to our legislature person here, it just hurts my heart because this money is coming from our work, our taxes. We pay the taxes, but yet the money that's being spent for private schools, for rich people who haven't even asked for it. There's where the money is. And I hate to get political, but it's all political. And it hurts my heart to sit here and know millions of dollars are going to private schools, and we are worrying about how much breakfast costs and lunch costs. It just burns me up. We gotta vote.
That's right. Very well said.
Yeah, I guess I could comment and say that that was one of the issues I was concerned about, and I voted against the budget because $91 million this year. And over the next 10 years, we will put, I think it's like so many billions of dollars. I think it's 1 point something billion over 10 years in vouchers for private schools. And that should be going to public schools. So we wouldn't have to have this conversation, Ruth.
Kayla, you take it away.
Sure. All right, so I'm just gonna stand up here and once again, thank everyone for being here. Thank everyone for making this an interactive session because we didn't just want the panelists to talk at you. We wanted the panelists to talk with you, to talk with the community. Because on that last slide, it said community, because we value community and we know the importance of community. And it also said, united we stand, divided we fall. So I'm very thankful that we're all able to come together and unite on this issue. And we are asking or prompting you all with our call to action of take action today, because on that sign that you guys walked past on your way in, and I'm not sure if we were able to show it on Zoom, but the sign reads, change tomorrow starts with action today. So the call to action is take action today, whether you're in person, whether you're on Zoom. We encourage you to spread the word, to sign the letter of support, to join the coalition, whether that means you are attending our monthly meetings online, which happens every second Monday of the month at 1 p.m. And you can learn how to get that Zoom link at schoolmealsforallnorthcarolina.org, or whether you're following up with us to learn about how you can become a spokesperson, how you can share your testimony with legislators. Any action is encouraged, and every action is important. So we have an example of a really, really intelligent young lady named Miss Nadia Nicholson coming on this next slide here to share with you all how important it is to find ways to share the importance of this issue in your community. And this is a video of Miss Nadia Nicholson sharing her message at the Guilford County Public School Board meeting.
Thank you for everything you do, and I know it can be hard since there are some decisions that not everyone agrees with, as I witnessed at the last meeting. You all make so many hard yet amazing decisions for GCS, so thank you. Thank you. I will be talking about school lunches and the students with a lunch balance. A normal school lunch tray has 1 meat, 1 vegetable, a wheat roll, fruit, and milk. This is a meal to give you enough nutrients for the rest of your school day. While most of the students are enjoying their lunch, there are kids that aren't. Students who have a high balance and cannot pay it off or down get a bagged lunch instead of a lunch tray, after walking through the same lunch line as everyone else buying lunch. While you might think that they get the same lunch, they don't. Those kids instead get a juice box or milk, fruit, vegetable, and a roll. But I wonder, where's the protein? Aren't all lunches supposed to be balanced meal? Not only is that not a good and substantial lunch, but we also know that's their last meal for the day. That meal cannot provide energy for that child, and it's also not fair that they are getting the same lunch as their friends. It's even worse that it separates students and makes it noticeable. There is a difference between a home bagged lunch and a school bagged lunch. That can not only be very embarrassing and humiliating, but that student may not have wanted to share this rough part of their lives with their friends. When kids notice something different, they will say something. And just by that one singular comment can ruin that child's self-esteem. Then it turns into a chain of really bad things, such as bullying, self-harm, etc. Why are kids treated like this? Because of their financial state. I want to see change in fair treatment. My parents always give me some extra snacks, so if I see anyone in my class that does not have a lot, I can give it to them, making sure they don't have that allergy. My grandma always says a well-balanced meal gives you brain power. So these kids need a daily balanced meal, yet they're not always getting that. We're doing our part. What can you guys do? Together, we can stop this. Thank you for letting me speak at this meeting. I hope you have a great day.
Sorry to put you on the spot, Nadia, but that was just such a beautiful example and straight out of the mouths of babes, truly, of how we can all make a difference, how we can all contribute to this work. And we want to encourage you now and open this opportunity to you all to take action right this second, right this moment, and ask you all to pull out your phones and text the letters SMFA, and that's S as in school, M as in meals, F as in for, and A as in all, because once you do so, you can send that to 52886. You'll be prompted to sign up and basically sign a letter of support and add to this collective voice of North Carolinians that want to see change. And as Nadia said, want to see change and fairness for all children. And that to me just seems like food equity. It sounds like food equity. We're screaming for food equity. And I encourage you all to join us in this. You can either scan the QR code here, or you can text the words SMFA, the word in just those 4 letters together to 52886. And you can do this online as well. And we look forward to circling back with you all, opening opportunities for you to call your legislator. We have a scripts available if you choose. We also have opportunities for you to share your story with a letter to the editor. And there's a number of ways you can get involved. So feel free to text that now, and also explore our website, which is School Meals for All North Carolina, schoolmealsforallnc.org. Yes.
All right. We're wrapping up. Gosh.
Do you want to close it out up here?
Yeah, I can close it
Yeah.
up out there. I'm okay closing a town hall and a meeting a few minutes early. I give you back the time, because my father always said, you can get back money, but you can't get back time, right?
Right.
All right. Thank you again to our panelists. You guys were absolutely wonderful. I learned every time I'm in this space, I learn so much more. So thank you all so much. And thank you all that are visiting with us virtually. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all in person. Thank you all for just being here and understanding the importance of the work that we have to do. I will ask one favor of each of you. Will you do it?
Yes.
I want you all to take one lunch home with you, because we have a little extra, and I don't like waste. So please take an extra lunch with you and share it with someone else. Okay? Did everyone do the call to action? I just did mine.
Take
Was it
action
easy?
today.
Super easy? Okay, great. All right, there's one question. Yes, ma'am. Please do. I saw the nod over here. The answer
Please
is
do.
yes.
And we also just this morning have that letter in Spanish. Thank you, Jessica, for. Uh, if I can get your email, I will send that to you. Thank you.
Take action today, everybody. We still have a few more minutes for you to send that text message if you haven't already.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
If I could just say one last final word on this. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but during COVID, it was possible to feed every student for free. 2 years running. It's possible to do now.
Right.
It's possible.
There
that's
are
right.
there are currently 7 different states that are providing school meals for all
8
for
now.
free. Is it 8 now?
It's 8
Okay.
now.
And you know, obviously, North Carolina is going to be way better than them. So there's no reason that we shouldn't get this passed and go through with this. What I have heard from talking to other states is that there's a petition that they would sign that goes forward. I don't know where it goes. I don't know how to sign it, but I did sign the one for North Carolina. I believe it was on a link, Dr. Ruth, that you may have sent to us.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know where that petition goes. I don't know if it does any good, but I know it's done somewhere in another state that has got 8 different states. So we know that it's possible.
That's right. Great point. Thank you for that. So the letter of support is connected to this text message, and the letter of support is also available on schoolmealsforallnc.org directly. And your voice is definitely important and will be counted towards making this happen.
Thank you all so much. Okay, now I'm giving you 3 minutes back of your time. But again, I want to thank you all. Tracy, thank you all. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you. And also I have to give a shout out again to Community Health Coalition, the little team that we are. Give a wave in the back. That's my team. We're small. We're small. And I also want to thank, one of the collaborators that came on board with us, which is the Greensboro chapter of the Links Incorporated. I see some members today, so thank you all for being here today. And I think, again, thank you, panel. Thank you all so much. Again, I learned so much. I have met some of you all for the first time. I felt like I've known you forever, but it won't be the last. You'll hear from me again. I'm sure I'll be bugging you. But again, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. And I think we're wrapped.
That's it. Follow us on social media.
And please take a lunch.